Good evening. I call to order the public hearing for the Cave Creek Unified School District's virtual instructional time model for the 2022-2023 school year. It's Monday, August 22nd, 2022, and it's 6 o'clock. 1.2, public comments. This is the second public hearing being held to receive comments from the public on the 2022-2023 virtual instructional time model for Cave Creek Unified School District number 93. Are there any comments? No. Okay. Since there are no comments, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. The public hearing for the CCUSD's virtual instructional time model for the 2022-2023 school year is adjourned. 2.1, I call to order the work-study special meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District number 93 Governing Board. It's Monday, August 22nd, 2022, and it's still 6 o'clock. 2.2, roll call. All 5 board members are present, and there is a quorum. Present from the cabinet are Dr. Monroe, Dr. Hendrickson, Dr. Jensen, Ms. Marcy Rodriguez, and Ms. Nancy Diab-Scott. Item 2.3, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented.
Member Hatcher, question on that. When the agenda was posted last week, there was a different item at 2.2. It was listed as new agenda item, but tonight 2.2 isn't on the agenda, so I was just questioning what happened to that item.
Do we know?
Yeah.
That was put on in error, so it was taken off before it was posted for the public.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted as presented. Item 2.4, call to fill out forms for call to the public. Are we any for that? Okay. 2.5, Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the pledge. Number 3, presentations of awards for schools and departments. There are none. 4.1, call to the public. There are none. Number 5, presentations, information reports. There are none. 6, old business. None. 7, new business. 7.1, ASBA's proposed 2023 political agenda presented by me, Beth Hatcher. Just a bit of background before I make the recommendation. The board approved on May 10, 2022, at a board meeting by vote of 4-1, we reaffirmed our top 5 priorities and added one additional priority to be considered for the ASBA's 2023 political agenda. The Legislative Committee reviewed and discussed every submitted proposal at their meeting in June. Governing Board Vice President Jeff Fortney will be attending ASBA's delegate assembly on September 10th. So the recommended action is that the Governing Board approve the ASBA's draft 2023 political agenda and direct Vice President Fortney to represent the board's determined position at the September 10th, 2022 delegate assembly. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Are there comments or questions? None? I just want to reiterate what you added in terms of the funding. I hope this is just a comment, I hope there is a consensus among the delegates that this is something really important that they need to push the legislature on. So
it's an ongoing battle, but we'll keep doing it.
Exactly. Just keep it on the radar. All right. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to accept item 7.1, the ASBA's proposed 2023 political agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstain? Motion carries 4-1. Item 7.1 is approved as presented. Item 7.2, instructional time model, presented by Ms. Nancy Diab Scott.
President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe, cabinet, and community members. HB 2862 allows a school district to adopt an instructional time model to meet instructional hour requirements through things like remote instruction, project-based learning, mastery-based learning, weekend courses, and evening courses. Before a school district adopts an instructional time model, the school district must hold at least 2 public hearings. Cave Creek Unified School District held their first public hearing on August 8th, along with a presentation that I did for the board, and this evening we held our second public hearing. We are now asking the board to adopt the Cave Creek instructional time model as presented.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there questions or comments?
A question from the last board meeting. There, on our donations page, it was noted, obviously, we had received a large donation from the Kiwanis Club of Carefree, $268,000 for the purchase of Chromebooks. Can you give us just, how many Chromebooks is that? When do we anticipate the delivery? Does that, does that take away, obviously, there's Chromebooks that are aging out, so are we still behind a one-to-one with our high school on a technology per student basis, or just where are we spending that huge gift from the Kiwanis?
So, yeah, President Hatcher, members of the board, let me jump in there. So the Chromebooks, Member Brown, don't really have anything to do with this agenda item on the instructional time model. We can certainly update that in a board update, but it's probably not appropriate on this. But I would like Mrs. Diab Scott to elaborate a little bit on, we saw one of our recent districts take advantage of the instructional time model. If you want to maybe talk about what happened in Peoria and why it was important that their board passed something that was similar to this.
My understanding with the power outage that they had, they were able to utilize this so that students don't lose out on instructional minutes. And so that's one of the key pieces that this brings in. So let's say, for example, one of our big storms, I was just talking to one of the members of the community about our storms, and if students were not able to come to the high school or to any of our elementary schools, we're then able to utilize the instructional time model at that point for students to be able to receive their assignments through Google Classroom and not lose out on any minutes, and then we would not have to make up any time after the school year is over.
And if that was to occur, Chromebooks could be utilized for that online learning by the students at home. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'm more than happy to do an update for you.
Well, your slide from the presentation, instructional approach, remote or virtual access, problem-based learning, mastery learning. Well, remote or virtual access, we're going to incorporate the Chromebooks in our usage, if I understand that correctly, right?
We will. However, Member Brown, in this case, that's not what this is referring to. This is just referring to that we're able to utilize Google Classroom to receive those instructional minutes. But when we get to that one-on-one at the high school and at the middle school, they'll be able to utilize those Chromebooks. But for this specific piece, they're able to use and access anything that they have at home to be able to access the Google Classroom so that we can receive the ADM and we can receive those instructional minutes.
Okay, so
it's
whatever the student has at home, whatever their computer setup is, they're able to get on for that virtual learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we're still talking about, for us right now, we're just talking about that day that we're doing the testing at the high school, and the other 3 grades are home.
Exactly. We're going to knock on wood, right?
Home
with
for
these
the day.
storms. Absolutely. And that's not until April.
Okay. Yes, since that was in last meeting that we noted that large donation, a follow-up would be appreciated to see
Absolutely.
Will
where
do.
we're at with that, with the purchase, and then where does that put us overall? Because I know we've been under the understanding that we've been behind on the technology piece for the Chromebooks. So I know if we have 400 age out, that we're really not going to net anything from that donation from the Kiwanis.
Noted. And in a future board meeting, we'll also have our new Director of Educational Technology also giving a presentation on precisely that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions regarding the time model? All right, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve 7.2 instructional time model as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.2 is approved as presented. Item 7.3, School Facilities Board Capital Plan for fiscal year 2023, presented by Ms. Marcy Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board. Every year, the school districts are required to submit a capital plan to the School Facilities Board. Capital plan identifies student growth projections as well as potential land or development projections as they affect the district maybe needing additional space. This report is just a requirement to be able to continue to have that relationship with the School Facilities Board. Our district does not need any additional space. The School Facilities Board will not be asked to approve us for any additional space. But what the School Facilities Board does for us is helps us with our maintenance and repair of our aging buildings. So it's recommended that the Governing Board approve the School Facilities Board capital plan for the FY23 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second. Questions or comments? So basically, this is just a formality. It's a requirement from the state.
President Hatcher, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
And then on the enrollment number, obviously we haven't had the board hasn't been presented our first enrollment numbers for the school year. I'm assuming that will be at the September meeting. So I'm assuming then these are just our best guesstimate for the enrollments for P6, 7, and 8, 9 through 12.
Member Brown, that is the first day of the school year. Those were the numbers that you see there that are being reported. And then the following years are numbers that we had a demographer give us a study, and that is what they're projecting moving forward.
Yeah, we've seen those studies about every other year. We'll have that presentation to the board. Just because you had said at the prior meeting that there was several students we were still waiting for after that 10 days of the start of the school year, that we would be dropping students that hadn't been in classes yet and that. So I just wanted to clarify that was what our true count was then on the first day of school.
That is correct.
Okay,
Member
thank
Brown.
you.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 7.3, School Facilities Board Capital Plan for the fiscal year 2023 as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. The motion carries. Item 7.3 has been approved as presented. Item 7.4, approval of the 2022-2023 qualified evaluators, presented by Dr. Frank Hendrickson.
President Hatcher, members of the board, this is our second round of approving the qualified evaluators. So the administration is requesting that the governing board approve the following individuals as qualified evaluators of classroom teachers and other certificated non-administrative staff members during the 2022-2023 school year. Each individual attended training relevant to the district assessment instrument and evaluating certified personnel. It's our recommendation that the governing board approve the 2022-2023 qualified evaluators as presented.
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments?
Is this the final group to go through the testing? So this is it?
Yep, this is it. This is the final group.
This is the hit list. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 7.4, approval of the 2022-2023 qualified evaluators as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.4 has been approved as presented. Item 7.5, approval of the revised salary schedules and ranges for the 2022-2023 school year, presented by Dr. Frank Hendrickson.
President Hatcher, members of the board, administration is presenting for approval the following revised salary schedules and ranges for the 2022-2023 school year. These changes represent the additional 4% increase approved by the governing board on August 8th, 2022 as a result of additional state funding. The new minimum wage requirement set to take effect on January 1st, 2023 has been adjusted with this revised classified salary schedule. This adjustment is being completed now, so it will not have to come back to the board for reapproval in the fall. It's a recommendation that the governing board approve the revised salary schedules and ranges for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Questions, comments?
On the assorted salary ranges, is it unusual if the district has to pay over that amount for a qualified candidate?
For which particular?
In general, I don't want to get too specific because I know that we're looking for some hard-to-fill positions in our classrooms. So what we put out there is our salary structure. We're also advertising, if we're looking for a particular position, there's a $3,000 sign-on bonus or stipend or something like that.
Correct. We have for certain positions like special education, and we've added the stipends for, I'm going to mess this up, trying to think of for a compliance stipend. So some of those hard to fill, we're kind of adding those additional pieces to help recruit them. And then when we do our placements, we also make sure that we are being as competitive as we can be with their years of experience.
So when we go out and advertise on the job market that we're looking for a position, we give that salary range, but then if it's one of these hard to fill, then we also include, oh, by the way, there's another $3,000
Yeah,
as a
we
stipend.
do. Yeah,
So
as we meet with those candidates, member Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're trying to put that information out there in the public to try to capture any good candidates that we might be able to find.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Member Brown, members of the board, and those one-time stipends, some districts call them bonuses, or they have a lot of creative language that's not included in the base. So you're absolutely right. Moving forward, we'll be very creative, as a lot of our competitors are doing, but that's typically not included in this base that we have in front of you now.
On the exempt salary range page for the ECS head teacher preschool, it begins at 26,000. I'm rounding. The upper range is 57. That's double. That I didn't see any other range that actually doubled the salary at the top limit.
That is, President Hatcher, that is correct. So with the head teacher at the preschool, there's two types. There's a head teacher that's a non-certified head teacher in our developmental preschools, and there's a head teachers that are certified and also have their special education certification, so then they get that additional stipend. So that range is so high because we have both groups that are in there.
Okay, so that sort of rings a bell. I think we may have had a discussion, or someone was encouraging special ed to get certification, weren't they? Because the salary is worth it.
Correct.
Okay.
President Hatcher, members of the board, you'll hear Dr. Jensen talk about that quite often. Remember, we have two preschools, basically, to really simplify it. We have tuition-based, where parents pay the tuition for preschool, and then we have some of the special needs where students come and are entitled to those services. So as Dr. Jensen always encourages our preschool teachers, there's a few steps that they can take for almost an extra certification, and their pay and their salary will go up. And that's something that is really attractive to us as well, because they're more equipped to handle all students.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, for Ms. Rodriguez, just to clarify, when the board approved this at the August 8th meeting, the 4% increase was across all three categories: certified, classified, and administrator, correct?
Member Brown, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then this will be, obviously, if we approve it, then it's retroactive from the beginning of their contracts or beginning of the school year, however their pay is structured, correct?
Yes, Member Brown, members of the board, that is correct. We will be retroing this payback to the beginning of the year.
So we have the 4% that's on this document plus the 2% that we granted back in March, I believe. So we're up to a 6% increase across the board.
Member Brown, this document reflects a 6% increase from last year's document in salary schedule, correct?
Thank you.
Mrs. Rodriguez, if the board was to approve the salary schedules tonight, can you just quickly describe what will be the next steps as far as our employees and expecting pay and those kind of things?
Yes. Dr. Monroe, members of the board, We are ready to hit a button, once you've approved this, for all of our hourly employees, we've calculated how many hours they've worked this year so far, and they will be getting an extra chunk of pay on their next week's paycheck. And then all of our salaried employees will see a new amount moving forward. So we're just going to take their balance of pay and spread it across the next several pays that are the balance of the year. So they've already gotten a couple of paychecks this year, so it'll be spread out for the remaining. They won't be getting the lump sum like the hourly are.
And I want to clarify something too, because I ran into a member of the community who coaches. And so coaches who receive a stipend are not eligible for this for the 4% and the 2%, because it's, stipend and the tax credits, right?
So President Hatcher, members of the board, if they are coach only,
Right.
they receive a supplemental pay. That supplemental pay, if I may remind you, is funded from the tax credit money, the pay to play for our sports, and any kind of fundraising that they may do. So there are no extra M&O funds that support our athletic program at this time.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
And just to clarify this, just it doesn't close the gap with our surrounding districts. It just kind of keeps us even with them. Correct?
Correct. Vice President Fortney, in a lot of the articles that I read, you read about inflation anywhere from 7% up to 11, 12%. So with other districts receiving this additional money, many of those districts are also compensating and paying their staffs, both certified and classified. So yes, how I like to say it is the gap just continues to be perpetuated. We haven't been able to close the gap. However, as the board is aware, there's an override on the ballot where we can definitely chop that in half or even more, catch up with a lot of our districts. And to Member Brown's question, or on Member President Hatcher's question about the coaches, that would also be something, those supplementals or those stipends for coaches only, that would also be represented in the override as well. If that were to pass, we could look at something like that. So to answer your question, Vice President Fortney, the gap just kind of continues. So hopefully that narrative changes very soon.
Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 7.5, approval of the revised salary schedules and ranges for the 2022-2023 school year as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.5 is approved as presented. Number 8, future agenda items. There are none. Number 9, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Meeting is adjourned.